What if the problem was never that you loved too deeply, but that the people receiving your love had forgotten how to recognize it? What if you were never too much at all, and the only mistake was believing the opinions of those who never truly saw you? Sit with that thought for a moment, because somewhere in this world, millions of people silently carry the same invisible wound. They apologize for caring too much. They shrink their personalities. They hide their kindness. They stop expressing affection because someone once called them needy, emotional, difficult, overwhelming. And after hearing those words enough times, they begin to believe them. But here's the tragedy. A flower doesn't become ugly because someone planted it in the desert. A violin doesn't lose its beauty because it's handed to someone who cannot hear music. And your heart does not become too much simply because it knocked on doors that were never meant to open. Carl Jung once wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." Sometimes, what people reject in you isn't your flaw. It's the reflection of everything they are afraid to become. Tonight, we're going to question one of the most painful lies you've ever believed. Not why they left, not why they couldn't love you, but whether they were ever capable of truly seeing you in the first place. Because the moment you answer that question, everything changes. Chapter 1. The Eyes That Named You. Every identity begins as someone else's description. Before you knew who you were, someone else was already deciding it for you. A parent who called you sensitive, a teacher who said you asked too many questions, a friend who laughed at your excitement, a lover who sighed every time you expressed another feeling. Little by little, their words became your mirror, and eventually, you stopped looking at yourself. You only looked at their reflection of you. Psychology calls this reflected appraisal. We often become who we think others believe we are. Imagine standing inside a room filled with distorted mirrors. One mirror stretches your body, another shrinks it, another twists your face into something unrecognizable. Would you spend years trying to fix your body? Or would you realize the mirrors were broken? Yet that's exactly what many people do emotionally. Someone incapable of emotional intimacy calls you needy. Someone terrified of vulnerability labels you dramatic. Someone emotionally unavailable calls your love overwhelming. And somehow, their limitation becomes your identity. The Buddha taught that suffering begins when we mistake illusion for truth. The labels you carry may not be truths. They may simply be the opinions of people whose vision was clouded by their own fears. Think about sunlight. To someone hiding underground, the sun feels unbearable. But that doesn't mean the sun shines too brightly. It only means the observer has forgotten what light feels like. Perhaps your kindness wasn't excessive. Perhaps it simply landed inside hearts that had grown comfortable with darkness. Carl Jung believed we don't see people as they are. We see them as we are. The insecure see confidence as arrogance. The detached see affection as weakness. The fearful see honesty as danger. And those incapable of receiving love often mistake genuine love for pressure. So ask yourself, were you really too much? Or were you simply standing in front of someone who had spent their entire life avoiding depth? The answer to that question has the power to rewrite every memory you've been carrying, because healing doesn't always begin by becoming someone new. Sometimes, healing begins when you stop believing the names given to you by eyes that never truly saw you. Chapter 2. The People Who Benefit from Your Self-Doubt. There is a quiet kind of power in self-doubt. Not power for you, power for the people who never wanted you to discover your worth. Because the moment you begin questioning yourself, you become easier to control. You apologize for having needs. You settle for half-hearted affection. You lower your standards until they fit the comfort of people who never intended to rise to meet you. Think about that. A tree never apologizes for growing taller. A river never asks permission to keep flowing, yet human beings often spend years making themselves smaller so that someone else doesn't feel uncomfortable. That is one of the greatest tragedies of the human heart. Many relationships are not built on love. They are built on imbalance. One person gives, the other receives. One person chases, the other decides how much attention to offer. Over time, the giver starts believing that love must always be earned. But love is not supposed to feel like an endless audition. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." When your why becomes earning someone else's approval, you slowly lose yourself. Every sacrifice feels necessary. Every silence feels deserved. Every unanswered message becomes another opportunity to prove your loyalty. And yet, the finish line never arrives, because people who benefit from your insecurity rarely want you to become confident. Imagine carrying a lantern through a dark forest. Some travelers will thank you because your light helps them find the path. Others will ask you to dim it because it reminds them they chose to stay in the darkness. Your light was never the problem. It simply revealed what others were unwilling to face. This is why emotionally unavailable people often describe emotionally healthy people as too intense. They mistake consistency for pressure. They confuse honesty with conflict. They call depth drama because they have spent so long living on the surface. Carl Jung believed that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives and we will call it fate. Many people call it fate when, in reality, they are repeating the same emotional pattern, choosing people who cannot see them, believing every rejection is proof they are unworthy, shrinking themselves to fit hearts that were never large enough to hold them. But awareness changes everything. The day you stop asking, "How can I become enough for them?" and start asking, "Were they ever capable of appreciating what I already was?" your healing quietly begins. Because confidence is not becoming louder. Confidence is no longer negotiating your value with people who only notice your absence after you've stopped chasing them. So before we move forward, ask yourself one final question. Chapter 3. The right eyes change everything. There comes a moment in every person's life when the endless search for acceptance becomes too exhausting to continue. Not because the world suddenly becomes kinder, but because something inside finally whispers, "Maybe I don't need to become someone else to deserve love." That whisper is the beginning of freedom. For years, you may have believed your worth depended on being easier to love, less emotional, less expressive, less honest, less yourself. You learned to pause before sending the message. You held back the words, "I miss you." You smiled when your heart wanted to cry. You laughed at jokes that hurt you. You became fluent in pretending, and the strangest part, people praised you for it. They called you mature. They called you easygoing. They called you low maintenance. But inside, you felt invisible because they weren't loving the real you. They were loving the version of you that had learned to disappear. That isn't acceptance, that is survival. Imagine an eagle raised among chickens. Every day it watches the others scratch at the ground, it copies them, it lowers its head, it forgets the sky. Then one day another eagle appears overhead, soaring effortlessly through the clouds. In that single moment, nothing about the first eagle changes. Its wings don't grow. Its strength doesn't suddenly appear. The only thing that changes is what it finally sees, and suddenly it remembers who it has always been. This is what the right people do. They don't create your value, they reveal it. The philosopher Lao Tzu taught that when you are content to be simply yourself and don't compare or compete, everyone will respect you. True connection never asks you to perform. It invites you to arrive. Think about sunlight again. The same light that melts ice also helps flowers bloom. The light didn't change, the environment did. Perhaps your heart was never too much. Perhaps it was simply placed where emotional winter had lasted too long. The right eyes do not criticize your kindness. They protect it. They do not fear your honesty. They trust it. They do not ask you to shrink. They make room for you to grow. And here's the beautiful paradox. The moment you stop chasing people who cannot see you, you begin noticing those who always could. They are quieter than you expected, less dramatic, less confusing. They don't leave you guessing where you stand. Because genuine love does not thrive in emotional puzzles. It thrives in emotional safety. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. If your thoughts are still chained to the opinions of people who misunderstood you, then your future remains trapped inside their past. But if you choose today to believe that your value is not determined by someone's inability to recognize it, a new life quietly begins. One where you no longer beg to be understood. One where you stop explaining your heart to people committed to misunderstanding it. One where peace becomes more attractive than approval. And perhaps that is what you've been searching for all along. Chapter 4. When you finally see yourself. There is a quiet morning that arrives after every long, emotional night. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks. It doesn't erase every painful memory. Instead, it arrives like the first ray of sunlight slipping through a window you've kept closed for years. One day, you'll wake up and the names they gave you will no longer fit. Too emotional, too sensitive, too intense, too much. They will feel like clothes you borrowed from someone else's closet, never truly yours, because you'll finally understand a truth that was waiting for you all along. You cannot measure your worth by the capacity of someone else to appreciate it. A diamond remains a diamond, even in the hands of someone who mistakes it for an ordinary stone. The ocean does not apologize because a small cup cannot hold all of its water. The moon never dims itself because someone prefers the darkness. Nature never questions its right to exist. Only human beings are taught to doubt their own light, and perhaps that is why healing is less about becoming someone new, and more about remembering the person you were before the world convinced you to become smaller. The philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." For years you may have reacted to rejection by changing yourself. You spoke less. You loved less, you trusted less, you dreamed less, not because your heart became weaker, but because it became afraid. Yet fear was never your identity. It was only your temporary shelter, and shelters are not meant to become homes. Imagine walking through a museum filled with broken mirrors. Each mirror shows a different version of your face. One makes you look smaller, another makes you look twisted, another hides half of who you are. Would you spend your life trying to repair your reflection? Or would you simply walk outside and look into a still lake where the image is finally clear? That still lake is self-awareness. It is the moment you stop asking broken mirrors to tell you who you are. Carl Jung believed that the privilege of a lifetime is becoming who you truly are, not who your parents expected, not who your past relationships demanded, not who your fears created, but who your soul has quietly been waiting to become. And when that day arrives, something extraordinary happens. You stop chasing people, you start choosing them. You stop begging for understanding. You begin protecting your peace. You stop fearing loneliness. You begin fearing the loss of yourself. That is not arrogance. That is wisdom, because real confidence is not believing that everyone will love you. It is knowing that you no longer need everyone to. The right people will never ask you to become less alive to make them more comfortable. They will never confuse your honesty with weakness. They will never punish you for caring deeply. Instead, they will recognize your heart because they have done the work to understand their own. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. You were never asking for too much. You were asking the wrong people. So before this video ends, I want to leave you with one final thought. Imagine meeting your younger self, the version of you who cried in silence, questioned your worth, and believed every painful label that others placed upon your heart. What would you tell them? Would you say you really were too much? Or would you kneel beside them, look into their eyes and whisper, you were never too much? You were simply waiting for someone who could truly see you. Now realize something beautiful. That child is still inside you, still waiting, still hoping, still wondering if they are enough. Maybe today is the day you finally answer them, not with words, but with the way you choose to live from this moment forward. Choose people who celebrate your light instead of asking you to dim it. Choose relationships where peace is louder than confusion. Choose a life where your heart no longer has to apologize for beating honestly. And above all, choose yourself, because the day you truly see yourself, the opinions of the wrong eyes lose all their power. If this message touched something deep inside you, let it be more than just another video. Share it with someone who has spent too long believing they were too much. Leave a comment with these simple words, I was never too much. Let those words become a promise, not just to us, but to yourself. And if you're ready to explore more timeless wisdom on psychology, philosophy, healing, and the hidden patterns of the human mind, subscribe to Cognitive Insight and join us on this journey. Until next time. Remember,